Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into the world of optimization algorithms.
Optimization algorithms.
But don't worry, it's not going to be a math lecture, I promise.
No.
We're going to focus on one very specific algorithm called MEVO.
MEVO.
And how it can be used to make smarter decisions in fields like energy efficiency, supply chains, even car design.
Yeah, that's right. What's really cool about MEVO is that it can be used for such a wide variety of problems. You know, it's like you were saying, finding the most cost-effective way to retrofit a building, all the way to like optimizing the design of like a really complex system, like an airplane or a supply chain.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. What exactly is this MEVO and what makes it so special?
So MEVO stands for, get ready for it, Metamodel-Based Evolutionary Optimizer.
Oh, okay.
It's a mouthful, I know.
Yeah.
But basically it's using machine learning, those like AI things everybody's talking about, with evolutionary technique to find the best possible solution to some of these complicated problems.
Meta models, evolutionary techniques.
Yeah.
This is sounding very high-tech. Can you break that down a little further?
Sure. So imagine you're trying to design a car that is like super fuel efficient.
Okay.
So traditionally, you'd have to run all these simulations.
Right.
You know, changing up the design every time.
Right.
And it just takes forever.
Yeah.
It takes forever, and it eats up so much computer power.
It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, but every time you want to try a different needle, you have to build a whole new haystack.
Exactly, and that's where MEVO comes in.
Okay.
So it uses machine learning to make what we call a meta model.
Okay.
Which is basically like a simple version of that super complicated simulation.
Right.
So it's basically a shortcut that lets us see what a design would do.
Right.
Without having to run the whole simulation every single time.
So the meta model is kind of like a cheat sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
It tells you what's likely to work best without having to go through all the trial and error.
Exactly. And to explore this like landscape of possible solutions.
Yeah.
Even more efficiently, we use evolutionary algorithms.
Evolutionary algorithm.
Evolutionary algorithms.
Okay.
So these are inspired by that whole survival of the fittest thing in nature.
Right.
You know, like natural selection.
Right.
So we generate a bunch of solutions,
Okay.
see which ones work best.
Yeah.
And then the best ones kind of reproduce and pass on their good traits to the next generation.
So it's like survival of the fittest.
Exactly.
But for algorithm.
Exactly.
Got it. So over time, this whole process like gradually evolves toward like the best possible solution. So in our example, the most fuel efficient car design.
Exactly. And a big advantage of this is that it can handle a huge number of variables.
Right.
And constraints.
Right.
So, you know, it's not just about finding a decent solution. It's about finding the absolute best one.
Right.
Even when the problem is super complex.
So not just simple problems, the really tough ones that traditional methods would take forever to figure out.
Yeah.
Got it.
And the researchers behind MEVO, they've put it to the test on real-world problems.
Okay.
Like building energy retrofits.
Okay, let's dive into that a little bit. So how is MEVO used to actually make buildings more energy efficient?
Okay, so imagine you have this old office building that's like not energy efficient at all.
Right.
You know, you want to improve it, but how do you add insulation?
Right.
Upgrade the windows.
Right.
Get a new heating and cooling system.
Well, yeah, there are so many options. And like, how do you even know which ones to choose? And how do you know that they're going to make a big difference?
Exactly, and that's where MEVO comes in.
Okay.
So they did this study with a commercial building in Markham, Ontario.
Okay.
And they used MEVO to find the most cost-effective ways to retrofit this building. So, you know, they gave it all the information about the building, the local climate, energy prices, all that stuff.
So basically, they gave it all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And MEVO figured out how to put it all together.
Yeah, exactly. And the amazing thing is it could figure out like which upgrades would save the most energy.
Okay.
Not just in the short term, but over the entire life of the building.
Wow, that's really impressive. So what kind of upgrades did it actually recommend? And what were the results? Did it make a big difference in the building's energy use?
It did. In fact, MEVO found a combination of upgrades that reduced energy consumption by 30%.
30%? That's huge.
Yeah.
What exactly were those upgrades? Like, did it tell them to cover the roof in solar panels or something?
Well, while renewables can definitely play a part, in this case, MEVO actually focused on things like the building envelope and its systems.
Building envelope. Okay, so like the walls and the roof.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like a winter coat for your building.
Okay.
Keeping the heat in, keeping the cold out. Right. MEVO actually helped them figure out like the best thickness for insulation in the walls and roof.
Okay, so better insulation equals a cozier, more energy efficient building.
Right.
Makes sense. What about windows? Were they part of the mix too?
Oh, absolutely. Windows are like a huge factor in how much energy a building uses.
Right.
All that heat escaping in the winter.
Right, and all the heat coming in during the summer.
Exactly. They can lose heat in the winter, gain heat in the summer.
It makes me think about when I was buying new windows for my house, and I remember seeing all those terms like U-value and SHGC. And to be honest, I had no idea what they meant.
Yeah, it can get pretty confusing.
Yeah.
So U-value basically tells you how well a material like a window prevents heat from escaping.
Okay.
The lower the U-value, the better at keeping that heat inside.
Got it.
So MEVO recommended windows with a lower U-value to make sure the building stayed nice and toasty.
Okay, so lower U-value means better insulation.
Exactly.
Okay. Now what about that SHGC thing?
Yeah, SHGC.
That has to do with the sun, right?
Yeah, that's the solar heat gain coefficient.
Okay.
So, U-value is about keeping the heat from getting out.
Yeah.
SHGC is about controlling how much heat from the sun gets in.
Okay.
So the lower the SHGC, the less solar heat the window lets through.
So like in a place that gets really hot, you'd want windows with a lower SHGC, right?
Exactly. That's why MEVO took that into account when it was looking at this building in Markham.
Right.
Trying to find the best balance between U-value and SHGC.
Right.
So the building stays comfortable all year round without wasting a bunch of energy.
So it's not just about picking the, most energy efficient option on paper.
Right.
It's about taking into account the climate and how people actually use the building.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
And the best part is, it did all this with way fewer simulations than traditional methods.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just finding better solutions, it's finding them faster.
That's huge.
Yeah. So you get better results and you get them more quickly.
So it's like having a super smart consultant who just gets it.
Yeah.
They know how to make a building work better without costing a fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
This is really cool. I mean, it seems like MEVO could totally change how we think about designing and upgrading buildings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Imagine if, every new building was optimized with this kind of tool.
Right.
We could save so much energy and make a real difference in fighting climate change.
Yeah, that's a future I would love to see.
Yeah.
But we talked earlier about how MEVO can be used for all kinds of problems, not just buildings.
Yeah, that's right.
So should we jump into some of those other areas like supply chain stuff?
Oh, yeah. Let's dive into the world of supply chains. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, supply chains. I mean, I get it. I get that they're important, but I'm not sure I'd call them interesting. What makes MEVO so good at dealing with supply chain problems?
Well, you got to think about all the things that go into getting a product, from the raw materials to a customer's hands. You've got sourcing decisions, manufacturing, where to put your factories, inventory, how much stuff to keep on hand, transportation, delivery schedules.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of.
It really is. It's like a giant puzzle with all these interconnected pieces.
Yeah, and if one piece is off, it can mess up the whole thing.
Exactly, and that's where MEVO comes in.
Okay.
Because it can handle all that complexity.
Right.
It looks at these huge data sets with all these variables and constraints and figures out the best way to set everything up.
So instead of just going with their gut or using a spreadsheet,
right,
companies can use MEVO to make decisions based on actual data.
Exactly.
That make the whole supply chain smoother and less wasteful.
Exactly. So, for example, imagine a company that makes products all over the world.
Okay.
They have factories in different countries. They've got warehouses everywhere, trucks, ships, airplanes, the whole works.
How could MEVO even begin to make sense of all that?
Well, MEVO could help figure out the best place for each factory.
Okay.
By looking at things like labor costs, how much it costs to ship stuff, even how close it is to the raw materials.
Right. So it's not just about slapping a factory down anywhere. You want to think about all those costs, right?
Absolutely. And then MEVO can go a step further.
Okay.
It can optimize your inventory so you have enough stuff on hand.
Right.
But you're not just sitting on a mountain of extra product.
So you don't run out of stuff, but you're not wasting money on storage.
Exactly. And it can even plan out the best routes for your trucks and ships, factoring in things like traffic, fuel costs, all of that.
Wow. So it's like having a superpowered logistics manager.
Yeah.
Who can see the whole picture and make everything run more smoothly.
Exactly. And all those savings get passed on to the customer.
This is really amazing. I mean, it sounds like MEVO could really change how we think about supply chains, not just make them more efficient, but actually make them more resilient to problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what about those other applications we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Like car design, airplane engineering. How is MEVO being used to push the boundaries in those fields?
Okay, so let's talk cars.
Okay.
Designing a car is all about finding that balance between all these different things. You want it to look good, be aerodynamic, have plenty of space, be safe.
Right.
You want good gas mileage, but you also want some power. And of course, you want to keep costs down.
That's a tough balancing act.
It really is, and that's where MEVO is so helpful.
Okay.
It can handle these multi-objective problems like a champ.
Okay.
For example, it can help figure out the best shape for a car's body.
Okay.
By looking at how even small changes affect things like aerodynamics, weight, how strong the structure is.
So it's like having a virtual design studio.
Yeah.
Where you can try out tons of different designs without actually having to build anything.
Exactly. And MEVO can do more than just the outside of the car. It can look at engine performance, suspension, even how everything's arranged inside.
Wow.
To make the most of the space and keep the weight down.
So it's really about creating a car that's optimized on every level.
Exactly. From how it looks to how it drives to how it's built.
And what about airplanes?
Same idea. You want an airplane that's fuel efficient, has a long range, is safe and reliable.
Right.
MEVO can help engineers explore different wing designs, optimize the engines, even tweak the shape of the whole plane to minimize drag.
So it's like having a virtual wind tunnel and a virtual test pilot all in one.
Exactly. And that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
As researchers learn more and more about MEVO,
right,
I think we're going to see even more amazing applications in the future.
It's amazing to think about how this one algorithm can be used for so many things, making buildings better, revolutionizing supply chains, designing cars and airplanes.
Yeah, it really shows you the power of computational optimization and the amazing work that researchers are doing to develop these tools.
It really makes you wonder what other problems are out there, just waiting for an algorithm like MEVO to come along and solve them. Maybe there are solutions we haven't even thought of yet, just waiting for the right tool to unlock them.
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface of what's possible.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of MEVO. It's clear that this algorithm is a game changer, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. Until next time, keep those minds curious.